You're listening to episode 2 of the Hike or Die podcast. My name's Tom Griffin. I'm joined again by a good friend, banjo player and hiking buddy, Craig Brennan. Today in this episode, we're going to be covering all things hiking fitness related. You ready for this, Craig?
Yep.
Let's do it. Alright guys, welcome to episode 2. We made it. We actually haven't made it, so we've only done one. I was just about to say we have made it to the second episode. We haven't made 2 episodes.
This is it.
Let's see how we go in the next 59 minutes or so. Mate, what's new? Tell me what's new. What have you been up to?
Mate, it's been a little bit miserable around here with the weather, so haven't been doing too much to talk of. Got away a couple of weeks ago for a bit of a climb up Mount Gungun.
Oh, yeah.
Or Nungan.
Oh, it's debatable. I reckon it's Gun.
Yeah.
But we'll have to find that out one day.
No, I climbed to the top with a 4-year-old. It was excellent.
So at least you had a good pace.
I could keep up.
You weren't getting outwalked for a change. This is good news.
Decent.
I was actually up there myself the Friday before last. So since the last podcast, between podcasts, I finished work, jumped in the car, drove straight there, had a dream run in the traffic, chucked my pack on, already had it packed and everything from the night before, and just blasted up to the peak and got there just before sunset and got out the new camera, took a bunch of snaps. I had everything up there. I had my stove, I had some snacks, and some dinner, and I was in for the long haul. Ended up, what I really want to do, I just got myself a new camera, Sony A7S, and I wanted to test it on some astrophotography.
Mm-hmm.
So I sat up there till nearly midnight, just before midnight I came down.
Really?
And it was so warm and just dead quiet, and I got some good shots. I haven't graded them yet or put them on Instagram, but they may go up before this podcast airs. But anyway, the point of it was that they far exceeded what I've ever done with my last camera. So,
what, you had the lens open for a long time up there? Or?
I had it, I think 20 seconds.
Yeah.
But it's just the fact that A7S can work so much better in low light.
Sure.
The amount, you could actually see the kind of line, which is the Milky Way, rather than just seeing a sky full of stars. You actually saw this burst through the middle of this twisted bright kind of thing. So
sounds
pretty
awesome.
cool. And I mean, that's first attempt, so I want to get better and better at that. And that's the way to do it. Sitting on a mountain Friday night after work. Get that into you. Best Friday ever.
Yeah,
so,
mate.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting. Other than that, I haven't been out. But we do have something coming up, do we not, Craig?
Yes, mate. I've been just tempted to call you all the time, talk about this trip we're going to do. Really excited about it.
Yeah.
What is it, 2 weeks away now?
I think it's not next weekend, the weekend after. Yeah, it's exactly 2 weeks.
Yeah, let's do it. You've been there before, I ain't.
I've been there twice, and were you meant to be there the second time? No, that was a different trip. The first time, anyway, I've done this trip twice, and it's absolutely gorgeous. It's basically, that is the worst pun ever. It is travelling up a gorge.
Sounds gorgeous.
I just realised that. That's terrible.
Gorgeous, yeah.
Unintentional.
Yeah.
Yeah, travelling up a gorge, literally at times close to waist deep in water. There's unavoidable spots where you just have to go through the deepest part because of canyon walls or boulders or whatever. 99% of it, you don't have to take your pack off. But as I found out last time, I'm glad that everything in my pack is in dry bags because I went over.
You had a fall, didn't you?
Yeah, completely submerged. Everything, my whole body, my whole pack.
Yeah.
And I lost my iPhone. It was in a waterproof case, but what I didn't realise was a tiny bit of water seeped in. I pulled the phone out, put it in a Ziploc bag, and 2 days later, there was a tiny bit of water under the case and it had been steaming in a bag of sweat for 2 days. It just destroyed it. Okay. Next time I turned it on, it was whacked out. So that's my advice to you is hike this hike like everything can go underwater.
It's going to get wet, eh? Yeah, it's going to get wet. And so we're going to camp halfway to the gorge, to the falls?
I wouldn't say it would be halfway. I'd say it's about a third of the way.
So we're going to set up a little camp there. Do you reckon our packs will get wet by that stage, or is it further on that it gets deeper?
Oh, from memory, it's just 8 hours of blur.
It's just constant.
It's 8. I can't remember what's what. All I know is within a couple of hours we'll make it to a spot which I've been to that is going to be great for a camp, base camp, and then the next day we can use day packs and move at a much faster pace, be more agile, and not risk all our gear going under.
Yeah, but get ready for it to get wet.
Yeah, but I fell over within the first. It was within the first hour.
Oh, right.
Yeah, straight up. I was so tired. I had about 3 hours sleep, drove down there, and I just lost my footing and I went under. And it was freezing cold.
Yeah.
It's all good. If it happens again, got another story.
Yeah.
Okay, moving right along. Oh, what happened this week? We had... it's been happening since probably just before the new year. Stephen from Topo Maps Plus sent me an email and we've been chatting. And so this week, Craig and I set that app up on our phones. And so far, so good. I like it. It's pretty cool.
Yep.
It was about 4 times better than I thought it would be, straight off the bat.
Yep.
I don't know why. I just thought, how's it going to be any better than Google Maps, for instance? But I'm well impressed so far.
Oh, I love looking at the maps. So yeah, it'll be really good next trip to take it with us.
Yeah, even Gun going back to that mountain we were just talking about climbing. That was one of the first things I kind of just went straight up because that's my local area, and it had the mountain there, and it had it said 253 meters. Like it had the height straight there, like ready to go. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yep, that is cool.
That sort of information you're not going to get off standard maps.
Yeah,
but it's something that we'll be putting to the test, and we'll keep you posted on that because that's something pretty interesting. And other exciting news. Have you looked at my feet today?
Actually, no.
Well,
normally I do. Oh,
I'm sporting.
Oh, yes.
My Speed Cross 4s that turned up on Wednesday.
I too have a pair. Right, so you're basically copying me, mate.
It is exactly copying you.
Yes.
Pretty damn close.
Well, I don't blame you.
I remember we discussed this in the last podcast. You were looking at them.
Yeah.
You showed me yours, and the night before that I was just about ready to click buy in the shopping cart. And then once I saw yours, I thought, yeah, I'll get them.
Yeah, they're great.
I love them. I actually can't wait to run up a mountain with them because they're so grippy. It's like football boots.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. There's something I wanted to touch on from a news topic. I spoke to you a little bit about it on the phone today.
Yep.
Something popped up in my news feed, and it was an article from Outside magazine, so outsideonline.com. Just on a side note, all of the topics that we discuss, I will put on our blog with show notes. So you can always go back to HikeordieTV.com, go to the podcast page, and then get the show notes. On the show notes, I'll have links to websites, YouTube videos, articles, pictures, whatever, so that you guys don't need to remember it while you're running, driving, on public transport, working out, or maybe hiking. You can just leave that for when you get home. Anyway, back to it. I see that not one but two national monuments in the US just 2 days ago have been, now let's get this correct, reduced by 85%. I just, we live in Australia, but that still hurts me. I still look at that and think that that's horrible. So for anyone who's not from the US and not familiar with what that means is, now I might get this wrong, forgive me, US friends, but I did a quick look around, and just from my knowledge on other podcasts, national monument is very similar to national park. So it's an area of land. I think the difference is perhaps that there's some significance of that land, and I'll go through a bit of a list in a minute. But so these are designated, and it could be the way they're managed too. So let's just move forward, because that's not the point I'm making. Some of the ones, so there's 129 protected areas in the United States known as national monuments. Now, what's disturbing about this is it hasn't been a national monument for that long. Not only that, but I think it was recently expanded, and it just concerns me that as soon as there was some opportunity to mine there, like actually, I read another article about it, and it said as soon as it was made a national monument, there was something like 88 counter claims or whatever put in, basically trying to fight it, and now it's gone through and it can be mined. Like people can actually go and buy a plot and just start destroying it. As I said before, this is happening in the US. Why does that affect me? It's not my country. It's not my problem. It does, because these are things that will never come back. Right. If we destroy, for argument's sake, if we destroy the barrier reef, that's the only barrier reef on the planet.
Yeah.
It's not like there's one in every country. So some of these things here, I'll show you some pictures just for reference, Craig.
So just reading this title, Bears Ears.
So Bears Ears is...
National Monument.
Yeah, Bears Ears is a national monument. And also the other one is...
Open for oil or open for mining. Just go up the top of that.
This one?
Yeah.
Officially opens to oil and gas.
Right.
There's two. Bears Ears is one of them. Maybe they've just listed Bears Ears because it was more famous. Yeah, so in the last days of President Obama's term, in the last days of 2016, straight afterwards, 88 requests came in. It just blows me away. What is more sad is when you look at these pictures, Craig, there's actually these historical
sites,
Yeah, archaeology sites where thousands and thousands, 8,500 years ago, there were natives living in these little clay kind of brick huts underneath this. I'm not saying that that's going to get destroyed and taken away.
Right.
But that'll be protected. But what I'm saying is you shouldn't be anywhere near that. That's...
So that is actually saying that's part of the Bears Ears National
That is
Monument.
part of Bears Ears, but...
So it's all
But the monument
under threat.
itself is I don't know, for argument's sake, like 100,000 acres or something.
But as we know, even if you don't take the centerpiece of a national park. If you disrupt it, it's devastating.
Well, yeah, and what's more scary is, let's look at the Glasshouse Mountains. That's a mountain range near us, which actually includes the mountain that we both talked about climbing.
Yeah.
What I love about it is it's close, and those mountains have still, got bushland. What I don't like about that area is everything around it's raped.
All the forestry.
It's just the whole place is destroyed, and there's just these mountain peaks that you go up.
Yeah. Okay.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
My point is, how's it going to be when these these huts and archaeological, is that a word? Sites. Yeah, no, don't worry, guys. We're not going to touch those, but we're going to continuously encroach on them until they're just one little fenced-off section in the middle of mines and stuff. Now, I'm probably grossly exaggerating, but once you're allowed to chip away at something, that's when it starts to crumble, and that concerns me on a global scale. We've had our own battles here in Australia as well.
Yeah, you can see the tone of these news reports that are coming from the States at the moment, and it is obvious that, the new president doesn't seem to care too much about protecting these national monuments, so it's a bit scary.
Yeah, not when they pose a greater monetary value. If he's doesn't have any interest in I don't know, the outdoors or anything.
Yeah.
The other thing I was thinking about was today, since I read that, was that kind of puts the obligation on all of us that share. Doesn't matter what we do out there, if we're rock climbing, hiking, photographing, canoeing, whatever we do. I think the more of us who are out there doing it and proving that we are using that land, then there's more people there to give the impression that it's not just sitting there. Because that could be quite it. You could pick lots of places in Australia and say, oh, nobody ever goes there, so what difference does it make if we drop a mine in the middle? Yeah. And it just, that hit home. I don't mean to, I want this podcast to be positive and upbeat. And I saw that article this morning, and I knew I wanted to touch on news, and it was just...
Yeah, we'll definitely keep an eye on that.
Yeah, it's disappointing. So, we need to support each other, and that means supporting any other groups that are using these wilderness areas and keeping an eye out for this. And that's across every country in the world, because that disappoints me that there'll be a point where if I want to visit Bears Ears, or my kids want to visit Bears Ears, they'll drive straight on past a mine to get there.
Yeah, for sure.
An oil well or something. That's pretty uncool. Sorry, that was a downer, guys. Let's move on. Let's move on to an upper. This is going to be my favourite part of the podcast every week, I reckon. And that is shout-outs.
Yep.
What I thought I would do, and we discussed this in the first podcast, was I would jump to an old school, long-term supporter of Hike or Die, and I'd also give a shout out to a newbie who's just jumped on board or just recently. So, Clinton.
Yeah.
Let me read you his. Let me read you his Instagram profile.
Yeah.
This is deep. I'll put a deep voice on everything. Clinton, a man from Nornine, a father and husband, a friend, a disciple, an outdoors man, a creation lover, and archer. Enjoy clips of my life.
That's it.
He's a beast.
Yeah.
Not only he's a beast, he's supported us for a long, long time, many years. And, mate, we appreciate it. Clinton, you're always there, you're always popping up in the feed, and he's always one of the first to jump in on our YouTube videos and sort of congratulate us and give a few comments and give us a bit of stick as well. He doesn't mind laying some crap on us now and then, does he?
I remember that.
So, mate, Clinton, I shake your hand if you were here, brother. Take care, mate. We will talk soon. I'm going to jump. Sorry, did you have something to add on that?
No, so who else you got there? Yeah, no.
Oh, yeah. So now I'm jumping all the way forward to, I guess this guy's only been following us for a small amount of time in comparison to Clinton. And what I realised after I kind of jotted these notes down was these are perfect, these two guys, for this particular episode being about hiking fitness, etc. Because Clinton's an absolute beast. You have a look at his Instagram, man. He's always in the gym every morning just smashing it out. He's a sizable unit.
Yeah.
He's got a mighty beard. And both of those things make him a beast. Now, this other guy, get this for an Instagram handle. One word, Savage Bear Wolf.
Savage Bear
That's
Wolf.
not 3 words. That's one word. He's, so Serge, I believe, is his name.
Yeah.
Powerlifter, strong man, strength and honor, iron and blood. That's cool.
Yeah.
He's a powerlifter, and you should see some of it. Man, he's a rig. If ever we need anyone to get our four-wheel drive out of a ditch or anything, this is the guy, right? One thing I was kind of doing a bit of research on old mate Serge, and he's got this blog, and as I said, go to the show notes. I'll put a link to his Instagram. He's got a WordPress as well, powersurge7783.wordpress.com. And I've read a few of the things on there, and they're actually really cool. I just want to read you this one. It's just an excerpt from one of his articles. It's called Under the Bar. Anger. I'd say 95% of my anger, and for lack of a better word, hatred, is on myself. The other 5% is my lack of patience for stupidity. See, straight away, I can relate to this guy.
Yeah.
The lack of the common sense that people have devolved from. So what is my outlet? My drug of choice is the iron. It keeps me sane and tranquil amidst the chaos of the weight room, the mental slamming, the swearing and screaming. I find myself in complete and absolute serenity. I find my serenity in chaos. Savage Bear Wolf Surge, thanks, mate. Thanks for following us. We appreciate your support, and I love those words you've written, mate. Everyone jump in, check out Surge.
Cheers.
Good stuff. All right, let's cut to the actual task at hand, and this might ruffle a few feathers. We've both got varying viewpoints on this whole fitness thing. I feel like I need to crack that ginger beer before I get into this next saga, but it's all good. It's all good.
Get into it.
Right. Why get fit for hiking? It's a question that some people struggle with, and I think they struggle with it because there's so many different levels of hiking, right? So you could say that you walked for 500 meters through a little reserve around the corner and say, I went hiking on Sunday.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. And if I said you need to train for hiking, you'd say, mate, you're a clown. What do I need to train to walk 500 meters with a water bottle?
Yep.
So I think the terminology hiking is so broad that that's the first thing. If we're not comparing apples with apples, then we're going to have a lot of people not understanding why we would go to these lengths.
There's a spectrum of different trips we could plan. So that's why sometimes it doesn't really matter. You know, you don't have to, you just got to turn up.
Yep.
You know, but then there's definitely times when you've really got to get there and, you know, turn it up, I suppose. And bring your game. And that's when it does help. Definitely helps have a bit of fitness.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the other question that comes from that first one is, and I saw this on YouTube video just recently, and it kind of was grinding my gears a bit because this guy said, "Oh, the only way to, if you want to get fit for hiking, you got to hike." Now, while I would not argue that the best way on the planet to get fit for hiking is to hike, I would also say that there are ways to infinitely improve your endurance, power, and strength. So the enjoyability of that exercise, so not the exercise, sorry, the enjoyability of that journey is hugely magnified.
Yeah.
By 80% more.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, I don't think that you can enjoy it quite as much unless you have a little bit of fitness under your belt. Like, I don't think you have to be fit to enjoy hiking. I think anyone from all walks of life can get outdoors and have an adventure of their own, but it does
to their level.
Yeah, keep it to your level,
right.
and then you'll still have fun. But if it can quickly become not so much fun when you go beyond that limit.
Yeah.
And I've been on some trips where I felt my limit was reached, and that's tough.
Yeah, I've gone beyond it.
That's tough.
And it's very quick. What I've noticed is very quick transition from your so a very quick transition from physical fatigue to mental fatigue.
Yeah.
Once you physically start to break, your mind just loses it, man.
Yeah, it bites.
Just, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Can't do it. There's been, I mean, we've done hikes where we talked about it on the last podcast. We blasted up the very first ridge of the very first hike, and I just thought, wow, I was heaving in the breaths and stopping about, like I'd stop at every tree, and they were about 20 meters apart, 10, 20 meters apart.
Yeah.
And I could go back there tomorrow and just blast up that ridge.
Sure.
Without too much effort. I'd raise a sweat, I'd be out of breath, yep.
Yeah.
But not the same. Not the shock either.
No.
Like I'd get there and I'd feel the pain and go, yeah, you knew this was going to happen.
Yeah, but it broke you physically, and then kind of starts to creep into the mental side as well.
And then once it creeps into the mental, your whole game goes.
Yeah.
So I do think that we need to make sure that when we're saying, going back to my original point, if we're saying we need to train for hiking, then we need to make sure that we're talking about the sort of hiking that people need to train for. So let's just say from this point forward, we're not talking about a half-day stroll in the woods. We're not talking about we're not even talking about a 6-hour cruise along a graded path. No. Let's just say that we're talking about a multi-day, so at least a 2 to 3 days minimum.
Yep.
Doesn't have to be off trail, but there's some significant kind of climbs, so a little bit of elevation, that sort of thing. I think that's what we're getting at. Oh, and because as soon as you add a multi-day dimension to it, you're talking about carrying a pack.
You're loaded up with some.
That's right.
Some gear. So
you're starting to get up into carrying weight, and I think that's where your body goes into a horrific shock when you put the pack on and you go, yeah, I can carry this. Yeah, I can carry this. Can you carry it for 20 minutes? Yeah. Can you carry it for 8 hours today? And there's a big difference.
Yeah.
I'll get into some of the training I do later on, but wearing a pack while you're doing exercise is, again, it's just building up that mental fortitude to perform with the pack on rather than kind of do all this training and then put the pack on later and go, oh wow, this is still feels terrible.
Yeah, I must say that's something I've never done as a plan is, I mean, I'll tell you that I do quite a bit of walking and jogging around the neighbourhood here, and that's fantastic for me, but I don't put a pack on. So you've done a fair bit of preparation with packs on, have you?
Yeah, I have. There's actually, like I said, I'll break it down a bit later, but there's actually a lady, she must be in her 60s or something, like mid 60s or something. When I drive to the train station of a morning to go to work, quite often, a couple of mornings a week, I'll pass this old lady and she'll have a backpack on, like a full-size backpack.
Yeah.
And just be trucking along the sidewalk. And I just think, good on you. Well done.
Yeah.
Like maybe she's not training for anything and she just thinks if I carry extra weight, I'm
working extra hard.
Yeah, that's great. But something tells me that she is training up for a walking trail, I don't know, Kilimanjaro, whatever. She might have something in mind, and she's out there smashing it, and she's got some pace on her, eh? She's doing well, and there's absolutely no doubt. It goes back to the other point. There's no doubt that walking around with the pack on, is the best way to train for walking around with the pack on.
Yeah, it would be.
And because balance comes into play and all sorts of other stuff.
Oh, there's no doubt. It's so different when you got a pack on. So, and there are packs you can get that you can load up with weights and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah. Well, the original packs that we had. Yeah. I just used that old pack and I put a 20-litre water barrel in it.
Yeah.
Which, equates to around 20 kilos.
Yeah.
Plus the barrel, and then the pack's about 3 kilos. So I think I get up around 24 kilos.
That's
Sorry,
decent.
guys, I'm no expert in... I'm just looking it up. 24 kilos in pounds. 52, just shy of 53 pounds.
Yeah.
Of weight in the pack. And the reason I do that, you can sit there and say, well, you should be an ultralight packer. Yes, but we are videographers and photographers, and we film and we take copious amounts of gear that if I didn't want to take a single video, if I didn't want to record anything for you guys, I'd be running
12.
Maybe 14, 14 kilo.
14 kilo.
Like close to half.
Yeah.
And but that's just not the case. So got to make sure that I'm training within that realm, or else I'll still get that shock factor.
Yeah, and water is so heavy, of course. And
what I like about it is sometimes I don't fill the barrel all the way up, and it actually moves a little bit.
Sure,
so while I'm doing other exercises like step ups and lunges and stuff, it can move a little bit, and then all of a sudden it engages my core, which is the same as if you didn't have your pack cinched down and you go to step across a log and this pack sways a bit. That's how one of the reasons I fell over on that gorge trip was as my foot did slip. Yeah, I'll acknowledge that. Yeah, but when it slipped, my pack leant over and it just put me 1 degree over balance, and it was like the slowest fall in the history of mankind.
For sure. I feel that when I slipped at that Stinson on that last day climbing up, far out.
When was that on the last day? You don't mean on the last day when we were climbing out?
No.
The last day climbing up with
all the leeches over us, and I ended up slipping and landing on my back in not too much pain, but just felt like just staying there for a while.
That was a couple of hours after I went over, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which
and it was the pack. It was the weight on the pack that just you couldn't stop yourself from falling after it went. So yeah, I think a little bit of training with a pack on is very, very valid.
Yeah, it's good. I enjoy it anyway. Feels like I'm hiking if I close my eyes.
Yeah.
There's another thing. When I was hiking up that mountain to do that astrophotography, on that Friday night, I had my whole big pack on, And
Oh,
you'd know how out of place that would be on that
Yeah,
trail. Because
yeah,
it's
it might
only 20 minutes up, 20 minutes down.
Yeah.
And I've got this massive pack with all this stuff in it. And as I went past this group, I was going up there for a purpose. I needed to carry my camera gear. And I love using little things like that as a training session because I knew this other hike was coming up.
Yeah.
So I was pushing it. I was going pretty hard. And I walked past this group and one of these girls said to the rest of the group, or to a couple of these guys that were struggling just carrying their water bottle, she's like, see, you should be training like that. And I just laughed to myself and thought, geez, I'm not even training. I'm actually going up there because I want to go up there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was pretty funny. Well, shall we go? I mean, that's a perfect segue just to go into our training. Okay, I've got a question for you. Will you, and be honest, you can be honest, that nobody's going to judge you here. They might, all the listeners might, but I won't. Will you do anything different between now, or have you done anything different from when we decided we're doing this trip in 2 weeks, since we decided on the date, to what you've been doing the last few months? Are you doing any form of training for this?
Yes, but
Right.
it's not. It fits in with what I usually do, which is just evening strolls. But I make sure that I'm out there just putting some Ks in, and this has made me want to double it. So I'm doing quite 1 hour of marching up and down the hills around here instead of 30 minutes in the evenings, which isn't much, but that just,
No, that's a significant difference.
I think that makes a difference, a bit of duration in that. And I'm happy to say I've been able to put a couple of 5K runs in this year already, which is something I wanted to talk about. If you're asking me about fitness, I think it's pretty important that something slows me down is some injuries. We've got to be talking about that when you talk about fitness.
That's a really good point, mate.
So I used to be super fit. I was doing, what do you call it? Like training in the mornings, not CrossFit as such, but it was
like a boot camp
stuff,
thing, weren't you? Yeah.
Yeah,
I remember that. I remember when you did that.
Yeah, but recently I've had this ankle thing, my left ankle. I've had MRIs. I've had seen surgeons. I've seen had several physios on it, and couldn't get. I've had like injections in it and all sorts of stuff to just try and fix the fact that I'd hit a point in my run and I'd just come up lame and I just can't go any further and I'd have to hobble back home.
I remember you telling me about that, and I totally forgot. You told me that.
Yeah.
Over a year or something.
Yeah, it's been 18 months.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
It's been depressing.
Yeah, that's you wouldn't know. I tore my Achilles tendon once.
Right.
Not completely off the bone, but the right hand corner.
Oh yeah.
And it was so painful and so. It was like a disability, man. Like I had to put not insteps, but these heel risers in my shoes and wear shoes all the time, or I couldn't even walk.
Oh, I started with podiatrists too, for this, and still don't exactly know. I think there's an impingement in my ankle, but I'm really, really, really excited that I can run again on it, and it's not pulling up anymore. So something's gone right recently, and I think we all have to accept that injury goes hand in hand with fitness and hiking and stuff, and we have to, take that on.
That's a good point. So that same injury, I was doing a similar boot camp thing twice a week, and it was the strongest I've ever been. Absolute strongest I've ever been. And every week I'd push myself harder and harder. And this guy, 80% of the stuff he'd have us doing was legs. Yeah. And I never ever realised. I'd always shirk on the legs, not because it hurt or whatever, just kind of, I don't know, it just doesn't, it never occurred to me that and this is going to sound absolutely stupid, that having powerful legs was going to assist hiking, because I kind of thought, well, I just need to get fitter for walking. But I was so wrong, and that probably ruins my credibility by it kind of saying that I didn't think of that. But if I could say to anyone out there, if you think, oh yeah, I do a little bit of legs, all I do is legs now.
All right.
I don't care. All I do is legs. And I absolutely smash. And do you remember that time that we did that training hike getting ready for my Tassie trip, my first Tassie trip?
Sure, yeah.
And we went down to that place called Cobble Creek.
Yeah, that's right.
I remember that very, very clearly, in that when we hiked out of that day, it was the first time I'd ever had to stop to wait for you.
Yeah.
And that was at the peak of doing that boot camp for about 8 months.
No, I remember that. I remember noticing that
you actually said
you'd stepped up a big...
Holy shit. What have you been doing?
Yeah.
And it was just legs. So for me, it's just legs all day.
Yes.
Legs all day.
It makes sense. That's
of course you want to keep, do other exercises, of course. But my point is that that power and that drive, man, it goes a long way.
Yeah.
So I do things now like I said, I'll put the pack on, and I've got this massive steel toolbox, and I'll just put a CD on, and I'll just hit play, and I'll step up and down on that toolbox until that CD stops. So whatever it is, hour and 20, I'll just go. I'll step up. Sometimes I'll step over it completely, turn around, step over it. Sometimes I'll step up on it and then step back down backwards. And I'll just keep mixing it up. Sometimes I'll stand sideways, step up on it sideways, step down sideways. And these are all things I think are very important not to do strictly symmetrical training, especially for the sort of terrain that we traverse with the pack on our back.
Yep.
Whenever you actually need to start pushing hard, it usually means you're stepping up onto a rock, onto a log, over a log, and they're all the points where you need those bursts.
Yeah.
I have a log. I mean, an actual physical log.
It's an expensive gym you go to, right?
This is a gym where I use the old pack with a barrel of water in it. I have a log, which one of the trees in my yard, a 60, 70-foot tree, went down over to my neighbour's place. And so I jumped the fence and cut it up with the chainsaw and ended up with this sizable log. I will weigh it. I've never weighed it, but it is very heavy. I say it will probably be 30 kilos, maybe 35. Or maybe it just feels like that when I'm nearly crying. But that log, I'll get that, and again, I won't be symmetrical, so I'll have it on one shoulder, and I'll do squats. I'll put it on the other shoulder, and I'll do lunges. I'll kind of walk forward and do lunges. I'll walk backwards doing lunges, and I'll swap shoulders all the time. Sometimes I'll just hold it in my arms and do squats, which is symmetrical. But I think that mixing it up is key to keeping engaging all the other smaller muscle groups.
So you're a real tree hugger these days, mate.
Mate, I hug that thing. I cry on that thing. I swear at that thing. So much so that, you know what I want to do with it? I'm going to need some help with this. What I'm going to do with it is I'm actually going to sand it, and then I'm going to wax it, like so it looks like this awesome log. But I'm going to, I want to carve a name into it. I just want it to have a name. And I'm actually going to, this is a fact, it'll probably be a couple of podcasts away. I'm going to run a competition to see who can come up with the best name for my training log. And then I'm going to give something away to that person. So you get a head start if you're listening. Start thinking now, because the competition hasn't even started. But a couple of things I like. Like, the first thing that comes to mind is like the Beast, you know, giving it a name like that, right? But then the other thing I kind of like is actually giving it a human name like Boris. Just that I'm just going to train with Boris.
Yeah, with Boris.
And just carving Boris in. And on the other side, I want to carve something really poignant, like, this is a Jocko. Do you know who Jocko is? Not you, Craig. I know you do. Jocko Willink. He's ex-military. He did a bunch of tours over there. He's an extremely motivational guy. I want to carve like one of his quotes. Like one of his would be, what is it? All of your... I can't believe I can't remember it. All of your excuses are lies. I'm sure it is. Yeah, all your excuses are lies. Just carve that into the side. So every time I think of quitting, I just look at the side of that thing and just pick it up. I'm going to do that. And then, so guys, put your thinking caps on.
Mm-hmm. Carving names in it is sounding a little bit castaway there, buddy.
It is a bit. Well, I talk to it. We have enough conversations already for it to have a human name.
Yeah. But
what's the name of that ball?
Wilson.
Wilson, that's it. Yeah. You're not allowed to suggest Wilson. I will not call it Wilson. Speaking of Jocko, because I did actually have him on my list, and the reason that I put him on my list was I thought, again, it weaves its way into the training. How are you going to train if you're not motivated? We know we've got a hike coming up that instantly makes it easier for me to train. I trained on Thursday morning at 5:30 a.m. and that is, for anyone who knows me, knows that there's something wrong with me to be doing that. Right? I'm not a morning person.
Yeah.
And I got out there and blasted. It was even raining a bit. I took old Wilson the log out there and we did some work together. And I did a bit of cursing. And I'm still very, very, very sore today. That's 2 days ago. It must have been Wednesday morning. Yeah, sorry, it was Wednesday morning. Anyway, Jocko is I'll put a link to his YouTube channel. He has this one particular video called All Your Excuses Are Lies. And just the way he frames things that we say to ourselves every day, like our brain is quite literally looking for the easiest path to get through life, hands down.
Yeah.
All day, every day. I should have walked up the stairs or just take the lift. Oh, just take the lift because I'm in a hurry. Yeah, that's why. That's a good idea. Every day you're making excuses, and he just breaks down these. Oh, it's too late. Oh, of course it is. Yeah. Oh, it's too early. Like all these excuses we make every day not to train. And he just basically said that's your mind just trying to find the easy path. And that really resonated with me. And I probably listen to that clip once a month, if not more, just to kind of remind myself that when, like I said, the other morning it was raining, the Tom of a couple of years back would have said, oh, it's raining and a bit cold. That's not a good environment to train. I'll do it tomorrow. And just left it. But I didn't. I just thought, good, rain, excellent, because I might get rained on while I'm hiking. So at least I'll know what it feels like to be crying, lifting a pack and getting rained on.
Yeah.
To hide my tears.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think the training brings in that discipline for the mental fitness that you need, not just physical, mental fitness that you need when we get out on the trail. So it's getting fit, but it's also just getting that discipline and that mindset of, hey, I'm, working this out so I can, hike out there.
Do you remember Montserrat? You've done that peak, right?
Yeah.
It's a beautiful hike in a couple of hours from us here in Australia.
Yep.
And it's near a pretty famous mountain called Mount Barney. Anyway, Montserrat, if you cast your mind back, has about 3 false peaks. Do you remember that?
Coming up from...
Oh, sorry, I came up from the portals. Did you come up that way?
Yeah, it's a funny story about that, but yes, I did. I actually came in the other way.
Oh, okay.
To arrive.
Right.
But then I did go down to the portals to get water, at which point my stereo pen was not working. And
you told me about that.
I was not
and you
impressed.
were panicking because I
had no water. I couldn't drink the water. I had to get back up.
My God.
I just carried some dirty water up, but then, it was tragic. But, I could have just drank the water. It's not that bad there, but
yeah,
it wasn't the best experience. I remember, you say false peaks because you kind of think you're there.
Yeah, so you look up and you can see the sky behind it, and you go, wow, I've only got to get to there.
Yeah,
and you get to it, and you realise this is a right-hand turn.
Yeah.
And then you look up, oh no, that's the peak. There's at least 3 false peaks on that mountain.
Yeah.
And they drove me insane. What I do in my training is I give myself false peaks because I always want to be able to go past the distance, the duration, whatever it is, especially if the shit hits the fan somewhere and we need to get somewhere quickly. We need to be able to push beyond regardless of the conditions. So, for example, I'll just in this training session, another reason I trained this week is I knew this podcast was coming up, and I wanted that pain fresh in my mind. And I remember there was a definitive point. I was getting close to the end of the workout, and I thought, right, I can do 10 more lunges and 10 more squats. And by this time, I was already blasted, and that's with the log on my shoulders. So I pick up the log again, and I did 5 lunges, and my legs are shaking. I had to stop. I go, good, I've only got 15 to go. So then I did another 5 lunges. I thought, good, I've only got 10 squats to go. So I took a breath, chucked the log up. I did 10 squats, and then I cursed again. I'm not going to say that. And I said to myself out loud, you do another 3 squats. And I did another 3 on top of the 10 that I'd already done, just so that when I got the pleasure of reaching the 10th one and thought, oh, wow, I've made it, I can give up now, I made myself do another 3.
Yep.
But I'll never plan that, because if you plan it, then you know you're doing 13 and you'll pace yourself.
Yeah.
I just always at the last minute just pick one stupid exercise and
Here's
do
my
something
chance.
extra.
Do that.
And it kills me, but every time it means I can go to the finish line, and then I can go 100 meters past the finish line if I have to. And that just comes down to resolve, and that's the sort of mental attitude we need out there. I know it's apologies if this is sounding all pretty heavy, but Craig and I, to get the footage that we get and to get the experiences that we experience, we like going to very remote places. And there are places that we go that are days and days walk from any kind of help, civilization. In Australia, our cell phone coverage is much, much less than, from what I understand, other countries. So within, for argument's sake, on the Stinson walk, within a couple of hours, you've got no phone reception until 2 days later. No phone reception. So we're on our own, and that's when we need to have each other's backs, but we also need to know that we can take ourselves to a place physically and mentally that we can get out of this place if some bad weather rolls in, or if let's say, for argument's sake, one of us breaks our leg and we just have to kind of set ourselves up.
You have to pick me up like Wilson.
Yeah, I have to pick you up on my shoulder. I need to start training with a bigger log. A small tree. Then I think we need to know that we can say, okay, Craig, whoever it is that's broken their leg, I'm saying you because I don't want to break my leg, prop you up against a tree, right? You've got food, you've got water. Let's set up a tent, whatever. You got everything you need. You're going to be just fine. Don't move. And then I've got the capacity then to absolutely blast through that bush.
Yeah.
And get out, get a crew, get back into you in the shortest possible time. And that is that extra 3 squats.
Yep.
Because at any point in time, you might need to do that extra bit.
I keep a pretty close track when I'm running of my state of endurance, and therefore I use a watch that gives me some feedback and some biofeedback as well. And I'm actually really getting interested in just knowing where my limits are, and I play scenarios in my head where I may have to hightail it out of one of our trips and find help or whatever, and I need to know how far I can run before I have to slow down. And I think it's important to sort of be prepared for that and know that you can reach a certain level of getting out alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The psychological aspects of that, the resolve, just from my personal experience, what I build out of that, the hikes that we do, what I build out of the training that I do for those hikes, I take that back into my personal life. I take that back into my work life.
Yeah, true.
And I remember a point where I had done, remember that first solo trip I did?
Yeah.
Well, I did the canoe trip for 3 days. First time I've ever gone out alone. And again, within 3 hours of paddling, I was out of phone range for 3 days.
Yeah.
And that was pretty significant. I remember sitting at my desk at work when I went back to work after that trip. Everyone's running around and there's people panicking and throwing paperwork on my desk. Oh, we need this done and everything. And I remember just looking around, and it was like a film. Everything kind of went in slow motion, and there was all of the sound went away, and I was just observing. And I remember thinking, you guys have no idea what I'm capable of.
Yeah.
Your problems, your petty problems, are nothing. They're nothing. I don't have time for your petty problems.
What you've been through.
It was life-changing.
Yeah.
And every time we get out there and bust ourselves, I take that fortitude and I bring it back to every other situation in my life.
Yeah, yeah.
If you think back to when we originally decided to get outdoors, it was pretty much to find those things.
And you might say that, fitness is one of the 1%ers or whatever, but it's something you can sort of work on, and it does, get the mental game right if you get a little bit of fitness on.
Absolutely. As I said earlier, the enjoyment. So let's say there's 2 people. One trains for this hike, one doesn't. They both go on the same hike. They both complete the hike. That's fine. No dramas. The person that trains will have an infinitely better experience.
Yep.
They will be able to push further
mm-hmm.
at a comfortable pace,
mm-hmm.
have a conversation while they hike
mm-hmm.
because they're not too out of breath. They'll be able to stop and take a photo, be able to operate the camera because they're not vomiting.
That's it.
They'll be able to have a short break for 5 minutes, have a snack and some water, and their energy levels will be back to 100%, throw the pack on, off they trot. Meanwhile, this other person is struggling to keep at that pace and just get to the finish line. That's my opinion. That is bred purely from my experience, my own personal experiences, and I will always bust my ass at home and go through the pain at home so that when I'm outdoors, I'm just having the best damn time concentrating on birds and mountains and taking photos.
Yeah. Yep. You got to be able to have that time at camp where you're still feeling good. You know, you don't want to be ruined and unable to enjoy the photography and the landscape. So, yeah, there is a lot to be said for that for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, we are churning through stuff here. Going back to Jocko, there's another person called Cameron Haynes, who is he came to fame by not many Australians would know him. He came to fame as a bow hunter, but as a super fit freak. He everything he does is to basically get better at that. But he's now progressed into these ultra marathons where they run for days.
Jeez.
Like they run for 100 miles or something.
Yeah.
He's just entering a 233 mile run that he's training for now. I think that's right.
Jeez.
It's called the Big Bear or something. I may have that incorrect, but let me just say that whatever the number is, it's not far off that. I'm not exaggerating.
Yeah.
Much. He's got this great video on his YouTube channel. I'll leave the link as always, and it's just called Cameron Haynes at a Glance. And it's just really cool. It only goes for 2.5 minutes. Just really inspirational. Well shot, beautifully shot little piece. But the last thing he says, I love it. He just looks straight to the camera and he says, "To all the people that say that I train too much, I thank you." And I just thought, that's awesome, man. That is so cool. Because what has anyone else's opinion got to do with how you want to create your success?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I just thought that was awesome. So, yeah, I recommend that. That's a good watch as well. I am going to blast through a couple of videos that I've, over the time I've been looking into this fitness sort of stuff, I think have a nice little collection of exercises, because it's way too hard for me to, on radio, explain to you. I just called this radio. That's odd, isn't it?
Radio.
It's an odd term.
Yeah.
I think audio was probably the term I was looking for.
Some people listen to the radio still.
Some people listen to this on your radio. Anyway, first one is there's this, and I don't know anything, but I just stumbled across this. Sovi Fit or something. They're a clothing distributor, fitness clothing. This girl's got tights. I've got tights, which means I could do that. What it is, it's not just for legs, Craig. This is actually for booty workout.
Right.
Yeah. So legs and booty workout. So that's a bonus. What I like about it, I'm not going to play any of it to you. You can check it out.
I want you
later.
to show me now. But anyway.
Oh, it's it's stuff it's a lot of squats, no weights, no resistance whatsoever. But what she's doing is absolutely fantastic, and it's all based on 45 seconds on, 15 seconds off.
Right.
And you do that for 24 minutes. But she has all sorts of Let's play a bit. I'll just mute that. She'll jump around like that. She's just doing a kind of it's called a left side lunge kick. So she's lunging all the way down and then lifting her leg up. It's off center. I wouldn't call it symmetrical. The wide climbers. That's similar to a bear crawl, except you're not actually moving forwards. I do some bear crawls, sometimes with that 20-litre drum on my back. I don't know why I do it, but I just kind of feel like, those times when we have to climb up through or under trees or crawl under trees and stuff. I kind of do it for that.
Yeah.
Just awkward. It's awkward and it's painful and it messes with me, but I'll go across the yard and back and then do it again, and the kids think it's hilarious. They laugh their head off at me. Oh, this is skater hops. Some people know what they are, especially skaters. No, she's great. It's a really good video. I'll put a link for that. There's another guy I'll give a shout out to. His name is Scott Malin, not quite sure. He is he's written some books. As I said, I'll put all the links, and I'll put the link to this video. But he shows this really simple exercise where he's putting he's in the lunge position, and then he puts his rear foot up onto a chair that he's got behind him, and then just starts doing one leg lunges. I've done these, and they're pretty awesome because they're engaging a lot of. I see how much, and he's fit. See how much he's struggling to keep his balance.
All right.
They engage all your core muscles, and you're only working one leg at a time. Also, having that back leg up does something with the hip flexors. It gives it more range than it would normally have.
Yeah.
I'm not going to explain it all. He's the expert. I'm just going to leave the link for you.
Yeah, that's good.
Check out this guy. He's a bit of a beast. His name's, how would you pronounce that surname? Papke? Yeah, Kurt Papke.
Yeah.
Papke.
Yeah.
Again, he's got this video called How to Get Fit for Hiking / Backpacking the Grand Canyon. Specifically the Grand Canyon. It's not going to work anywhere else in the world. No, so useless video. I'm kidding. Kurt, I love this video. Just to frame it, Kurt, what do you reckon? He's like late 50s, early 60s?
Probably.
He's just smashing it. And he's got this really cool exercise. Check out this exercise, Craig.
Yeah.
So he's kind of on a box of sorts, and he's stepping down. He's got one foot on, and he's stepping down with the other foot, but he only just lets the other foot touch and then pops straight back up. And I've done that as well, and that gets pretty hectic, man. After like 30 seconds or a minute, it starts to really burn. He's doing some lunges. Reverse lunges as well is something after doing some research, there's a considerable difference between lunging and walking forwards and lunging and walking backwards and pushing off that front heel. So, again, I'm not the fitness expert to go into the technicalities, but videos like this will point you in the right direction. Again, I'll chuck all of those links on. Craig, do you have anything else to add on anything whatsoever?
No, mate. Thanks for showing me those videos. I haven't really looked through YouTube for some potential exercises and stuff. So
yeah, I'll share those with you, and well, I'll send you a link to the show notes, and you'll see them all on there.
Thanks for that.
I'd definitely check them out, mate. Some of these are, again, these guys are exercising with no weights whatsoever. The only props they've got is sometimes a chair or just basic stuff, a step. So it's not like you even need to hit the gym for this. This is stuff that you can smash out around the place or down the park or whatever.
Yeah.
And I definitely, lunges for me used to be so awkward and difficult and painful. They're still painful, but they're much less. I've got a lot more stability and a lot more explosive power out of the step. So I definitely give kudos to them. Yeah, we'll share them. You check them out. Get a bit of Jocko into you.
Good.
Remember that all of your excuses are lies.
Yep. Sounds about right. No, I'll take some of that on, man. I think I might ramp it up a little bit before this next trip.
Yeah, you've still got 2 weeks, mate. You can get there.
I'll be in a lot of pain.
Yeah, you want to. That's actually something I wanted to say. Was like, I think that there's a point at which you need to ramp down, as you know, but probably nobody listening will know that I used to compete in high-level martial arts competitions around the world, in Japan and around Australia, and there was a tapering off period. As there is, I assume, for any sports whatsoever. So you will get to a very high intensity, and then in that last kind of 5 days, you really just be moving your body. There'll be no resistance, there'll be no weights, there'll be no way that you're going to get an injury.
Right.
And you're basically letting your body recover from those weeks and weeks of intensity.
Yeah.
Letting your body recover, getting that battery charge all the way up to 100%.
Yeah.
Letting a little bit of that animal kind of build up again as well.
Yeah.
That kind of power. And then when you do hit the trail or whatever, hit somebody else, you're back to 100% as good as you can be, because you've taken that time to recover. So I'd say you got 1 week. You got about 7 days to blast, and then you can rest up.
Yeah, I've always thought that after a long run, 3 days. 3 days before you try it again.
Oh, that'd be for me.
You
I
can't
don't react that well to running. I'd probably leave it 4. I just
recovery.
Yeah, my recovery. Like again, anything on my legs, recovery is slow.
Yeah.
But the results are absolutely fantastic, which is why I keep doing it. Well, I want to thank you guys for hanging in there on this podcast. I hope you picked something up. I hope that even just directing you to these links and this information perhaps also gives you something that you might not have thought of, perhaps some inspiration, perhaps a new exercise or two. There's definitely some cool exercises in those videos. So thanks for watching. Next episode, I'm going to let the cat out of the bag here. We are going to record our next podcast on location.
That's right. Yes.
So logistically, we're still back and forwards working out how we're going to do that. I've got a pretty good idea.
Yeah, we haven't worked that out.
So this hike that we're talking about, traveling up this gorge, we'll be staying up there for 2 nights. This hike we're talking about is where we will probably, no doubt, set up for the night, get everything sorted, cook dinner, or at least start cooking dinner, and then we're going to start a podcast. I can't tell you what that topic will be. It's not a secret. It just hasn't been decided yet. So leave that with us. But just know that there's going to be some cool sounds in the backgrounds. Probably, hopefully more like crickets and birds and insects rather than large predators. Less of those sounds, more of the bugs. So that's where you'll hear from us next.
That'll be nice.
Should be very peaceful.
Yeah, sounds of summer.
Maybe the odd mosquito slap.
Yep.
Or freak out when something crawls on us.
Yep. The rolling rapids and some...
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point. There will be continuous water in the background depending on how we mic up. Yeah. You know, last time we camped there, I was hanging in my hammock. I had my feet folded up. I'd just finished eating. And just as a matter of habit, I always look down and just flick my head toward John at the ground directly under my hammock before I step out, just in case there's a centipede, scorpion, whatever. And I did that, and I looked down, and there was probably somewhere in the vicinity of 7-foot python, about 2 feet away from my hammock. And the whole front sort of third of its body was raised up in the air and coming towards my hammock to of smell the air, like he had his tongue going.
Yeah.
And he's raising up almost like, what is that smell and noise and thing moving in the dark there? And
so even though the hammocks are off the ground, you reckon he could have just raised up to the hammock?
Yeah. The interesting thing was the way my hammock was hung, there was a little bit of a ledge off to the right, off to one side rather. So he was already raised.
Could have got up on
He was already raised by half a foot or a foot. Mm. He was already halfway up to my hammock. And yes, he very could have easily just gone, hey, fella, got a new room.
Yeah.
But he kept coming. The other guy I was hiking with was freaking out. And I just kept talking to the snake. And I just said, in my calmest tone, hey, buddy, it's all good, buddy. You don't want to come up here. And he kept coming directly towards me. And when it got about a foot away, he slowed down. The tongue was still going, tasting the air and everything. And then he just went straight under my hammock and continued on his way. So I jumped out of the hammock, grabbed the head torch, grabbed the camera and started filming it. And he had no interest in me whatsoever. He was on his nightly hunting duties, and he just couldn't care less about me.
We might see him again.
I hope so. Catch you guys next time.
Thanks for listening.
See you later. If you're listening to this podcast on iTunes, we'd really appreciate your ratings and comments if you can spare the time. If you'd like to know more about HikeordieTV and keep track of our adventures around Australia, make sure you drop by Hikeordie.com. That's where you'll find all the information you'll need to follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram or Pinterest. As always, we appreciate your support. Thanks for listening.